Skillshare. You've probably heard of the name.
Skillshare, who are very kindly sponsoring this video.
Video is sponsored by Skillshare.
This video is sponsored by Skillshare.
I've been taking Skillshare classes the past month.
A shout out to this video sponsor, Skillshare.
It's basically an online learning community with so on and so forth, or whatever spiel that each of these YouTubers have to say or are asked to say in their videos. A lot of the things I've been seeing on Skillshare or anything talking about Skillshare have primarily been people who have been sponsored to talk about Skillshare, rather than actual people who use the product. I want to be able to help you figure out whether Skillshare is worth it for you or not, and if there's something that's actually of value there for you. This is coming from the perspective of someone who tried out the free trial, started paying for it, and is actually using the course. So here we go. Let me give you an unfiltered review of a non-sponsored Skillshare video on what it is like and whether it should be for you or not. Let's begin. If you're in a rush, let me save you some time with the conclusion. If you're willing to pay the monthly subscription, willing to put in the work, and you're looking for a more technical type of thing for your projects, basically I think Skillshare is for you, and that will help. Now, let's go back to the video. Let's go with Skillshare under the hood. Basically, Skillshare is an online learning community, as it says in the website, with thousands of classes for creative and curious people on various topics including illustration, design, photography, video, freelancing, and more. Just think of it as Netflix, but for learning. You're essentially paying to get access to these various classes rather than the usual method of you paying for a class and that's it. You're paying for a subscription to be able to access these various classes. Even knitting, which is something I'd love to try in the future. Skillshare basically categorized classes into what would make sense. It's create, build, and thrive. Create is for those things that you're just looking to make things into a reality. You're trying to look into how to figure out how to make an output. Build is more for building for the business side. How are you trying to figure out what you want to do and be able to monetize it as a result? And thrive is more of like the soft skills or the leadership-like things, where it's more about self-development, productivity, and lifestyle. They're all pretty good, I would must say. What can you expect from the classes in Skillshare? Generally, when you take a class, it's self-paced, where you're basically watching a series of videos by the instructor. The start of every class is an introduction video to help you give a sense of whether it's a fit for you and what you're looking for. Once you're good with the intro and want to proceed to the next, you simply just continue watching. Just like Netflix, they autoplay to the next video. Here, you get to see me watch Ali Abdal teach you the basics on how to video edit with Final Cut Pro, running through you the tips and tricks he learned over time. They also have a projects and resources tab that I find pretty useful, which serves as your reference for the project you look to be doing, which is mighty helpful for anything you want to refer to or want some additional resources to help with your project. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Isn't that basically YouTube? You just have to watch videos, right? Yes and no. Skillshare is primarily video based. It is primarily in that format, which is similar to what you could get in YouTube. But it's not exactly like YouTube. So there are different features and different things with the content here in Skillshare that I believe is worth paying for this specific type of learning. Let me explain. First, compared to a YouTube video, a good Skillshare class, take note, good Skillshare class, will primarily be a bit more directed or focused than anything you could get on YouTube. Rather than having to scour through a long list of videos, trying to search it on the bar, trying to look at the various channels, seeing if they're legit or not, you primarily save a lot of your time by using Skillshare, where you don't have to think about those things. You don't even have to keep context switching, where if you keep switching from one channel to the next, trying to teach you about one thing or the other, where you're basically trying to figure everything out on your own, it's a bit harder than that. Whereas Skillshare, it's primarily focused on a specific output, a specific project, end to end, that's curated for you to figure out from start to finish. And an example of this is, surprise, surprise, Ali Abdal's Final Cut Pro class, where he gives you a lesson from end to end, teaching you how to edit a video from start to finish. Shout out Ali, I really did appreciate that class. I did get to learn. That's kind of what I'm using as reference all the time. So check it out. If you were to do this on YouTube, you'd have to search each time for a specific topic and then hope that the same YouTuber is talking about what you're looking for, or else you'd have to go through a bunch of those before you're able to find what you're looking for. I don't even know about you, but with YouTube for me, it's pretty much a dark hole where I start with a very productive topic about how to edit in Final Cut Pro, and all of a sudden I'm transported into the K-pop MVs of Twice's comeback or whatever song that you're trying to do. So with Skillshare, at least you're able to spend long hours focused on actually learning the content rather than just scouring it through on YouTube, the search bar, and trying to figure out what resource is the best for you. Number 2, and the beauty of having these things curated and done by one specific instructor or one specific group is that you're able to understand what the process is and you're seeing them break it down for you to be able to figure out on your own as well. Like in Ali Abdal's Final Cut Pro class, I'm able to understand how it is that I should approach videoing and I should approach editing a video, from starting with the A-roll to the B-roll, and how do I edit accordingly, rather than figuring it out on bits and pieces. There's someone who's teaching me not just the technical how-to, but the process or workflow of how I should do it, which is far more valuable. Or another one where I got to watch some design videos where I came away with the knowledge of visual hierarchy, which essentially gives me a sense of, okay, when I create something, I'm not just thinking about it on what looks pretty, but I'm thinking about it in terms of the visual hierarchy of what it is that we need to communicate to the person. All of these things I wouldn't have known if I didn't watch an end-to-end process of someone trying to break these things down, which is ultimately what you want in a class. You're being equipped with the building blocks for you to figure out on your own what it is that you want to create. Exposing my website here, but in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, they explain alchemy along the lines of that.
Alchemy, the science of understanding, deconstructing, and reconstructing matter.
And essentially, that's what you're getting with Skillshare. You come away with an understanding of what's the general process like. You're able to understand how a person deconstructs that process and how they're doing it in their workflow. And you're able to reconstruct it in a way that you're comfortable with to see how you can use your workflow to create what it is that you want specifically. Isn't that cool? You're an alchemist of learning. The third thing why I like Skillshare. Many of the classes here are project-based, so you really get a sense that what you're learning is going to be put into action. The thing is, I have a lot of problems in putting into what I learn into action because many of the things I read are primarily theoretical and framework-based. And that's not a problem. That's not a bad thing. But what you really need is that you need to convert those theories and frameworks into action if you really want to learn something or a craft. And you can't say that you learned something after watching a video on YouTube, right? You have to be able to put it into action. You have to try it out one way or the other. If you're gonna watch a video about riding a scooter, you're not magically gonna be able to ride that scooter. You actually have to put it in application. And many of the Skillshare classes are made with that lens in mind. All of them are kind of focused on the idea that they're trying to give you a project at the end of the day or at the end of the class where you're able to tinker around as you go through the videos for you to learn something at the end of it. But, for all these good things, there's always a catch, and there are a number of them. Similar to YouTube, where you can upload any video you want, in Skillshare you can create as many classes as you want. So although the numbers are a bit more filtered out, you still have to be discerning whether what you're watching is good or not. So for example, with me, MKBHD's class was a bit lacking in terms of what I wanted to learn, but maybe it would be good for someone who's looking for a more general side of things or a more general level of video production. So make sure that before you start out the class, try to do some research, watch the introduction video, look at if there's any discussions, look at the project and resources, and see if it's a fit for you. And hey, even if you start out a class, don't feel pressured to continue doing it if it's not worth it for you. Essentially, you're given a subscription to be able to try out these different classes. You're not paying for that class itself. So move on to the next one if it's not for you. And another con is that if you're looking for something that's a bit more traditional classroom setting, if you're looking for more theoretical frameworks or more of that philosophical discussion, Skillshare isn't really right for you. With all that said and done, let's put everything together and see if Skillshare is right for you or it's not. 1. You have to be willing to pay the monthly subscription. Annual subscription is a bit more bang for your buck because as of recording, it's 1,200 pesos a year and it will save you time figuring things out. Don't waste time on YouTube if you can afford it and just go straight to Skillshare and try some project out. Number 2. Are you willing to put in the work and not just watch or consume things? Again, right? Buying a course is only one part of the equation. You actually have to work to learn these things. You have to get these things done. And number 3, you're looking for more technical how-tos rather than theories or traditional classroom setting type of things. What you're looking to learn here is more technical and can be immediately applied to a project rather than you trying to be a bit more philosophical or exploratory in nature. Remember, whatever you learn, you actually have to do the thing. From whatever it is that you do, whether you get Skillshare or not, even the videos you watch, the books you consume, the readings you read, all these things require you to actively engage with these things for you to learn them in the end after all. You can't just buy these things and expect it to magically work. You can't buy a gym membership and expect you to magically lose some weight after all. All these things said, I think you really just have to put in the work whether you're learning or not on Skillshare. It's always hard at first, so don't be discouraged. Whatever it is that you're trying to learn, it's hard because you don't know it after all. But take heart, that's really how learning is. That's how it begins. So if you're still on the fence, Skillshare has that free trial where you can try it out to see if it is meant for you or not. And a shameless plug here is that if I'm able to get people to try out from my link, I'll be able to extend my Skillshare membership as well. Hopefully you get to try it out here and be able to help me extend my Skillshare membership. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know if there are things that you want to learn more about. Feel free to let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe to keep posted. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks and see ya!